Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery. Today I'm going to be sharing a technique video. I'm going to be showing 3 different ways to fringe quilling paper to add to your projects. You can use fringed paper as its own project. You can add it to different traditional world projects to make more of a texture change. You can do a lot of different things with this, but I'm going to be showing 3 different ways. They're all going to be using this 3/8 inch paper from Quilled Creations. So this paper is almost a 1/2 inch wide, which really aids in fringing because you can get nice long strips when you're cutting. So as you can see here, the first way that I like to do my fringing is with a very small pair of scissors and just freehand snip. Pros and cons. Like anything else, with this technique you have a lot of a variation in the width of your fringe and also the length. You know, there's nothing to stop my scissors from going all the way through the paper and cutting it completely, except for just patience and going very slowly and keeping an eye on what I'm doing. So it can get much more of a natural look that way. If you like a little bit more of a guide, I use sometimes a binder clip on one side, and that will stop my scissors from going any further than the clip. That's another technique that you can try. I tend to just kind of go for it myself. I don't mind when it looks sort of differently shaped and different sizes. I kind of like the natural look and having it look a little bit less uniform. Totally up to you. I do fringe thinner paper this way. Like I said, I'm using this thick paper for this tutorial, but I have done this many times using even 1/8 inch paper, like a traditional 1/8 inch quilling paper strips. I do have some resources that I can share in the description for this video that does show me showing different ways of using fringed paper for other projects. So I'll share all that down in the description box. But anyway, like you can see, it's not all the same, different widths of snips and different lengths, but when you roll it, which is a lot of times what you're doing with the fringe paper, you can see some of that gets sort of hidden, some of it doesn't, but for me, I don't mind this. I think it's a very fast way to do it, and it works for me. You can go really slow and get really thin, precise snips. For this video, to make it not super long, I just kind of went for it. So using a slotted quilling tool, I think that just makes it a little bit more gentle on the rolling. I rolled this fringe strip all the way up, and then you use your fingers and just kind of spread it out. And that's going to make a very simple fringed flower. So almost like a mum or one of those type flowers with very small petals that just kind of go in every direction, almost even like a dandelion when it's in kind of its final bloom. That is a manual, tiny scissors way of fringing quilling paper. For my next, they do sell what they call fringing scissors, and they have essentially really just like 5 scissors in one. They are set at 1/8 inch width, so you're going to get very even fringe snips. You cut 5 at a time, and then you just move it down your strip and you cut another 5, and you move it down your strip and get another 5. So again, good and bad parts to this. It does make very even snips. If that is important to you, these tools work really well for that. I think it's kind of hard on the paper. These are very intense, thick blades. And so you can see my paper's kind of curling and warping, and I just think it's really rough on the paper. Yeah, so there you can see very even. There's even advertised on the packaging for this that you could use these scissors to make your own 1-inch strips. I guess they're meaning like long strips. That I feel like would be very difficult to make them even all the way through a long piece of paper. I don't know, if somebody's tried that, let me know how it works out, because I find that kind of a surprising claim, but neither here nor there. You can roll this up as well. I find, like I said, this one just is very difficult, or not difficult, I'm sorry. This paper is just really fragile at this point, so it's a little bit trickier to roll. But you get those nice, even, sort of chunky fringe, which can look kind of cool. You know, it's not as delicate as the thin fringe that I did manually, but you get a similar effect. So just like I said, kind of chunky, which may be cool for the project that you're doing. There you go. Second flower. Now, if you're going to do a lot of fringing, they do sell these sort of fringing machines. This one I picked up online, and it's billed as the most easy to use, perfect fringer out there. It was a little pricier than I would have spent probably a few years ago when I wasn't quilling as much. So it's a little bit more of an investment. You can get them less expensive, and they're sort of like a metal. I've never tried one of those. I believe they work in a similar fashion. It has sort of like a guillotine type blade in the front, and the idea is that you feed the strip from the back, and it has these little pusher things that are supposed to push the paper evenly through. As you push down on the lever, the blade in the front, which is right underneath that lever part, will cut your strip in an even way. I find this really hard to use. I don't know, it might just be this particular machine. I have a hard time feeding it in from the back. Like every third time it sort of bunches up and I have to start over again. I don't find that it does feed itself, which might have been my fault. Maybe it wasn't supposed to. That was what I had figured. The directions were not really helpful. I couldn't really find a ton of information on how to use this. Other people gave it good reviews. It just might not be for me, which is fine. But regardless, I find myself having to sort of gently push it from the back slowly while pushing down on the lever and having it cut, which isn't really a comfortable thing to do. And I still, because I'm pushing it and trying to make it all even at the same time, it doesn't give super even cuts unless you're really, really, really paying attention to how fast you're pushing and how fast you're pushing down the lever. So you can see, like, there's some thinner ones, there's some thicker ones on the end. I don't know. I don't love this tool, but I wanted to make sure that I demonstrated it. I'm sure, like I said, other people have really great luck with it. If I really slow down and really, really, really pay attention to what I'm doing, I can get it to be a little bit more even, but it's not an every time thing. But now we know. You can roll these up in the same way. I'm trying to get the uneven parts off there. So let's just use this tiny little piece, just like I showed before, but I wanted to make sure I gave everything the same effort here. Roll this all the way, end to end. By the way, I've showed this a bunch of times, and I will put all of these tools down in the description box, but this slotted tool that I'm using is called the Savvy Slotted Quilling Tool from Quilt Creations, and it's one of my favorite tools. I really, really like it. Anyway, back to the fringing at hand. This one is really small because, like I said, a lot of that was super chunky on that one side. But you can get very delicate fringe from a little fringer machine. It just takes a lot more patience and time. So I don't find it to be really efficient unless you get a lot of practice on that one. So how about some examples of different ways that you can make these quilling flowers? You can layer different colors together in one long strip end to end. So I did 3 different colors on that one and then rolled it all up as one. This is a little bit different take on that. Instead of doing them in one long strip, I kind of stacked the yellow and this watermelon color on top of each other and rolled that way. So you get different colors all over the place. You could do this with more than 2 strips of 2 different colors, and I think that would be really cool as well. Here is an example of different colors made with the quilling scissors. So you get a little bit chunkier look. Like I said before, it's not a bad, it's just different. There's the 2 side by side, and you can see the first one is much thinner. This one I kind of mixed the 2, so I did the chunky with the watermelon paper and then a really small little roll of manual fringe right in the middle. Here is more of a traditional quilling mixed with some fringed paper in the center, kind of like the stamen of the flower. I have a tutorial on that flower coming up soon. And then here is sort of quilled flower buds, so they're just kind of blooming. 2 different colors rolled together, and then in a 3D kind of a domed little cup as they're blooming out of there, and then on some on edge kind of stems. If anybody's interested in a tutorial on that project, let me know. I haven't made it, but I'll be happy to if you're interested in seeing more detail on those fringed flower buds. So long story short, there is more than one way to fringe paper for your quilling projects, and there's many ways that you can use that fringed paper to make flowers. But again, just like anything else, let your imagination run wild. I'd love to hear how you use fringed paper for quilling. Leave that in the comments down below, along with any questions you have. I will leave links to other projects and to all the supplies I used in the description box for this video. Look forward to that orchid project coming up real soon. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.